Welcome to another Goji Center video. Today's video is which dinosaur had the worst death in the Jurassic Park franchise. Now let's see how gory is gonna get. Enjoy!
Today on Goji Center, we will travel back to the islands of Jurassic to rank the worst animal-on-animal violence and determine which non-human creature suffered the most brutal exit in the saga. Broken ribs, bites, dislocated necks, ripped limbs, stabs. We got everything on this list. Subscribe if you don't want to miss out on any of our brutal recaps and analysis, dinosaur fights, hybrid breakdowns, and more. Alright, so to begin, we will be ranking our dino kills using a simple evaluation scoring method. If you remember last time in our previous episode covering the human unalivements in the franchise, we used a similar scoring method. Today, we'll use 3 points of criteria. Number 1, gore. That is the amount of messed up violence and spectacle seen on camera or implied to have happened off screen. 2, pain meter. Pretty self-explanatory, but really measuring the amount of pain these poor creatures suffered as compared to the rest of the animals on the list. And 3, dino brutality. Really measuring how brutal said kill appeared on camera, or how horrible the death was implied to have taken place. The final score of these 3 evaluation methods will be used to rank these kills as we proceed in the video. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. Oviraptor, Jurassic World Dominion. Despite the mixed sentiment the audience had for this film, there were a few elements that are worth noting. One of the creatures seen in an extended cut of Dominion, the Oviraptor, was one of the poor captive dinosaurs forced to fight in the underground catacombs of Malta. The culprit, Lystrosaurus, a small but scrappy therapsid, not technically a dinosaur, that carried a pretty deadly pair of chompers who also contributed to the death of Delacour later in the movie. Previously, though, the Oviraptor would find that this little fella is nothing to be messed with. Once pitted against each other, the Lystrosaurus went straight to the neck of the dinosaur, and with one swift bite, ended the Oviraptor before the surrounding audience got comfortable. This would be the first time we saw a decapitated dinosaur in a Jurassic movie, and fortunately for the Oviraptor, it's likely that it didn't suffer all that much, since cutting the head off quickly in this fashion shuts the body down relatively fast. This, however, is still a gnarly spectacle. Seeing the body of this animal is still moving, literally running around like a headless chicken. This gives a pretty high gore score of 9, pain score of 1, and dino brutality score of 8. We'll see if this kill stays in the top 10 ranking, because there's a lot of kills we will cover today. T-Rex, Jurassic World Dominion. In the same film, this time in the prologue, we are taken back in time to this alternate universe, where for some reason a non-paleo-accurate Giganotosaurus coexisted with T-Rex. Now, for those who for some reason can't handle people talking about T-Rex getting wrecked, then, dude, get over it. In this flashback, we witness a clash of titans turned into a squash match. Giganotosaurus being clearly bigger and noticeably superior combat-wise right off the bat. This Giga sensed the ditch behind him, almost falling into it himself, and gauging the depth with his tail. Grabbing the T-Rex by the neck, it's likely that this creature did either one of 2 things. 1, the Carnosaur could have snapped the neck of T-Rex, making it yet another time the poor T-Rex suffered the same fate in the franchise. Or 2, perhaps a worse outcome would be leveraging the sharp-bladed teeth to cut into the Rexy's throat, then letting him fall into the ditch to bleed out and die. It was likely, however, that it could have been a combination of the 2. This Rex seemingly died very quickly, given that its eyes dilated. This usually happens when the brain ceases to function and the muscles that contract the iris, called the iris sphincter muscles, lose the ability to constrict the pupils. The poor Rex falls and dies after being shoved around, cut by blade-like teeth, and thrown into the ditch. This death gets a gore score of 6, pain of 7, and dino brutality score of 6, ranking it above the Oviraptor with 19 points. Bull T-Rex, Jurassic Park 3. Sorry, T-Rex fans, but here we have another instance where the Tyrant King failed to defend their title. Spinosaurus is an animal infamous for being an apex predator implied to be a T-Rex hunter, attracted to the scent of a T-Rex instead of running away. The way that Spino killed this T-Rex is an indicator that this fella got this down to a science. We all know what happens. Spinosaurus regains his bearings after getting bit and shoved by the T-Rex, manages to get a very good hold with the straight peg-like teeth, excellent for gripping, along with fixing the body with his grappling arms, and twists the neck of the T-Rex. This maneuver likely severed the spinal cord near the cervical region, which is how this T-Rex was instantly rendered useless and would have died very quickly in a most brutal fashion.
Ow.
The sound effects team in this film did an excellent job showcasing what happened internally, and the amount of twist inflicted by the Spino's neck snap maneuver looked pretty gnarly. This kill's portrayal and sound effect gets it a gore score of 8, pain of 4, and dino brutality score of 8. This Spino's learned method of dispatching rival predators grants this T-Rex a higher ranking than the previous one discussed, with 20
18, 19,
points.
20.
Indoraptor, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
Oh.
Now that we ran out of dead T-Rexes, we can move on to another, possibly more brutal kill. This hybrid creature, created from the remnants of the Indominus Rex, was a little too intelligent to be allowed to roam about, given this dude gave us one of the worst human kills of the franchise. But it also got thrown off the roster pretty gruesomely. When confronting Owen and Maisie, the Indoraptor was standing on a rather fragile structure. But right before he was going to pounce on his target, Blue appeared out of nowhere and threw the Indoraptor off balance.
Come
This
here.
wasn't going to be a soft landing.
Yeah.
Underneath this was the skull of an Acuhaceratops, allegedly mixed with another genus, but the point here is that this would have been the demise of the Indoraptor, who landed on his side with one of the horns piercing the upper torso. This likely pierced the heart, meaning this Indoraptor died within short moments of landing, causing excruciating pain for a few seconds. Call it karma or just circumstance. The way this killer raptor died was pretty messed up nonetheless.
Ow.
For gore and spectacle, this death gets a 9. For the amount of suffering, this one gets an 8. And dino
9,
brutality of 5 for Blue pouncing on the Indoraptor despite being on an unstable platform. This raptor was smart as well and likely knew the repercussions of pouncing from this height. Pretty reckless from Blue, but it nearly paid off just as it nearly caused her her own life. Indoraptor tops this list for now with a score of 22.
What?
Delta, Jurassic World. The predecessor of the Indoraptor, the Indominus Rex, was likely just as smart, but this one was bigger and could inflict some pretty serious damage, some of which was inflicted on one of Owen's raptors, Delta. Except this kill was topped with something even worse. After switching alphas once again, the remaining 3 raptors turned on the Indominus. Delta, however, got caught in the powerful jaws of the Indominus, likely piercing the abdomen, upper torso, and even the spine. After getting thrown violently, it was possible that the raptor could have died here from the impact, but instead met with a fiery fate. Landing on what appears to be a propane-powered stovetop or something of the like, this raptor endured his final moments being grilled alive for an unknown amount of time. Any open wounds would have felt the burning sensation. Cooked from the inside and out, Delta's death gets a gore score of 5, but a pain score of 9. Dino brutality score of 7 due to the violent intention of the Indominus to throw and shatter the lesser theropod. This kill ranks right below the Indoraptor's exit with a score of 21.
Damn.
Ankylosaurus,
Oh,
Jurassic
no.
World. Ankylosaurus was one of the most heavily armored herbivores created by InGen, but even this did not spare them from the terrible fate that awaited them at the hands of Indominus Rex. Once again, the culprit of another kill on this list managed to not only kill, but figure out this living tank. After realizing that the top part of this animal was practically impenetrable, the Indom now begins attempts at flipping over the Ankylosaurus. Once successful, the poor herbivore is basically helpless. The heavy armor on its back makes it almost impossible to get back on its feet on time, leaving it helpless, handicapped, and at the mercy of the indomitable queen. The last thing this Ankylosaurus saw was the jaws engulfing its entire head until the lights went out. The kill maneuver, a
Damn.
neck snap. We covered this already with the T-Rex, but at least the bull had the chance to try and squeeze out of the Spino's grip. The Ankylosaurus didn't. Subdued and helpless, this Ankylosaurus suffered a pretty gruesome death, with a gore score of 7, pain of 8 given the injuries it endured while slashed, and its killer rendering the Ankylosaurus helpless gives this death a dino brutality score of 8. At 23 points, this ranks at the top.
Damn, look at
only
them
for
go.
now. Pteranodon, Jurassic World. Pteranodons in the franchise have been portrayed as a species that is most dangerous in big numbers, constantly seen as creatures that harass humans, often in hordes. Every once in a while, one will fly close to where they shouldn't, Jurassic World being the best example of this. This unlucky pteranodon and opportunist who saw Zara Young as a potential meal for later caught itself in a really nasty situation when trying to exit the water. And the culprit, Mosasaurus, appeared from under the water to snap its jaws shut right on the pterosaur's torso. This bite, as seen here, didn't quite immediately kill the pteranodon, as it appears still moving as the Mosa crashed back into the water, suggesting that apart from feeling teeth that are more than a foot in length crash into its chest cavity and wings, it would have had to endure even more violent thrashing and bites as it slid down the throat of the Mosa. Not to mention that there was a very good chance the Mosa would have snapped its beak on the way down. This gruesome and spectacular kill gets it a score of 9 for gore, 10 for pain,
Wow,
given that it
10.
still would have had
That's
to
good.
endure a lot more,
job, Joanna.
and a dino brutality score of 6. Not too high, since this was really the only method the Mosa would have caught the pterosaur, just being an opportunist feeding on yet another opportunist. With a final score of 25, this kill ranks in the top spots of this list. Indominus Rex, Jurassic World. Could be bad luck, could be karma, whatever it was, it's clear that the end of the Indominus Rex was prolonged, painful, and messy. During the last act of the movie, the Indominus Rex had already been shot at, bitten, scarred by raptors, repeatedly slammed and stabbed at by debris. However, this still had not killed the Indom, and evidently it was going to take something special. The Mosasaurus once again appears on this list of killers, and is the only one who could have taken care of the Indom this fast. Or so we think. After getting tons of teeth and jaw slammed on her neck and upper torso, the Indominus gets violently dragged underwater. This is where we are left off at. However, after further observation and discernment, we are left with the assumption that this right here was not where the Indominus died. She was still alive when dragged underwater, meaning that the Mosa either thrashed the Indominus around underwater or shook any air out of her, leaving this animal to drown. In the following film, we saw what remained of the skeleton of the Indom, meaning that the Mosa did not consume, at least not the whole carcass of the hybrid. The head and upper body seemingly left intact to die from the wounds as it landed on the lagoon floor. We've covered the death of the Indom in detail in a previous video, but for the rankings, we are giving this a gore score of 8. Would have been higher if we actually saw what happened, but piecing 2 and 2 together, it's clear that what happened underwater was not a clean kill, leaving the pain score to a 9 and dino brutality score of 7. Indominus gets a high rank in this list with 24 points. Velociraptor, Jurassic World Rebirth. Velociraptors made a successful debut back in 1993 while establishing themselves as the fearful and super intelligent creatures in the first film and literally throughout the rest of the franchise, other than in Rebirth, where they were underutilized and basically used as fodder. Quick honorable mention to other raptors that perished quite gruesomely. Charlie getting blown up right during a point of redemption, that being after betraying Owen and turning against the humans. The raptor pair, more notably the big one from Jurassic Park, getting munched into, going limp, and then violently thrown into a skeleton that would have also shattered her own skeleton. The other raptor from Sorna, killed by a gymnast who didn't make the cut for her school gymnastics team, skewered and possibly left to die a slow, agonizing death or cannibalized by other fellow raptors. And Echo, also munched in a similar fashion as the big one. This one in Rebirth suffered a gory assault from above. Ambushed and caught by surprise and ditched by their partner, this raptor was repeatedly gored, pecked, slashed, and pummeled on the floor. As a finisher, the Mutodon violently ripped the raptor's throat, leaving its limp body to bleed to death as it was carried away to be further consumed. If it wasn't for this intervention, the raptor would have sent Xavier to our top 10 human kills list. Because of this gnarly portrayal and hard pummeling, the kill in question gets a gore score of 8, pain of 10, and dino brutality score of 8. Yeah, we saw this thing get wrecked from start to finish on screen, so this score of 26 places it at the top. We're getting close to finalizing this list, but we do have a few that didn't quite make the top list, but are worth bringing up. Going back to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, one of the sad but horrifying deaths was that of this Brachiosaurus. Well, really the entire surviving lot of dinosaurs left on Nublar, R.I.P. Baryonyx, who was probably left to cook here. But this Brachiosaurus, left to asphyxiate in toxic fumes, and burned to death from inside and out by breathing and being exposed to hot ash? Not fun. Sounds bad, but a reason why they didn't make the main list was because today we are focusing on animal violence. Let's not forget this incident during Nublar's volcanic disaster. A subduing bite from Rexy inflicted on the Carno, followed by a stomp on the neck. Now, admittedly, it's not 100% clear whether or not Rexy killed this Carno, but it likely perished after such a wound, or getting caught by the incoming burning ash. Now we'll return to our main list and see if any kills manage to rank even higher. The Apatosaurus herd, Jurassic World. One thing that we repeatedly emphasize on the channel is that sauropods in this franchise are honestly severely nerfed. No other instance in the franchise proves this more than this scene in Jurassic World. As Owen and Claire look for Zack and Gray, they stumble across a gnarly crime scene. The scarring and bloody wounds made it clear that it was Indominus Rex who managed to bring down these sauropods. But it wasn't just one, it was a whole herd. This massacre likely took place extremely quickly, given that these Apatosaurus are still in close proximity to each other, and not scattered over a wide range. The pools of faint but visible blood, disturbed landscape means that this Indominus violently mutilated these animals, knocked them down, and left them to die in agony. What brings this kill to the top ranks of the list is the fact that this wasn't just a kill, it was a cold-blooded massacre. Painful and completely unnecessary, because the Indominus didn't even take a bite out of any of them to eat. This gives it a score of 9 for gore, pain of 8, and dino brutality of 10 for killing for sport. At 27 points, these kills take a top spot in our ranking. There is, however, one kill from the long past that might still surpass what we have seen so far. Gallimimus, Jurassic Park. It may have been a while since we've seen this kill on screen, but it's one of the only kills in the franchise that portrays how messy a T-Rex bite could be. As Dr. Alan Grant and the accompanying children try to make their way back to safety, they get caught up in a Gallimimus stampede that ends up being interrupted by the ambushing T-Rex. Yeah, the cries of despair of the poor Gallimimus as he gets the wind crushed out of his lungs is only the beginning. It's worth noting that T-Rex does have enough biting force to bite this lesser animal and turn it into a pulp. More messy, but instead here the T-Rex takes a smaller bite from the Gallimimus, seemingly ripping the upper back and practically filleting the already dead dinosaur. It would be some time before we saw this much dino-on-dino violence on screen. That is, seeing flesh getting ripped off another dinosaur. Tim's comment reveals that this got even more bloody. This underrated kill makes its way to the top ranks of our list with a gore score of 10, pain score of 9, and dino brutality score of 9 as well. Ripping the back off a dinosaur is nasty business. You may have noticed that in today's episode, we already have 11 dino kills on our list, with Oviraptor getting bumped out of our top 10, with the T-Rex death at the risk of getting bumped out as well. But will it? Up next is Giganotosaurus Jurassic World Dominion. Both in the literal sense and circumstantial, this was one that was pretty messed up, especially since the alleged villain behaved nothing like one, and in the movie, the Giganotosaurus was doing nothing but just acting like a real animal. No vengeance motivated its interest in the human cast, portrayed as a normal predator that defended its territory, and brain-zapped into entering an arena with 2 other dangerous theropods armed with claws and plot armor. After subduing the T-Rex in an epic brawl, the Giganotosaurus now faced the blind Therizinosaurus, an animal with especially dangerous claws capable of one-shotting an equally menacing rival if struck on the right spot. After Rexy recovered, the movie made the implication that despite being physically inferior to the Giga, Rexy still had a lot of smarts left in her. Leveraging the pointy object on the opposite side of the ring, the T-Rex pushes the Giga right into those claws at the right moment, forcing the claws through the upper neck and torso of the Giga. This injury, apart from being a piercing wound, was also a spinal injury, likely piercing the spinal cord as well as possibly wedging between the vertebrae, hitting the nerves and making the Giga's final seconds excruciatingly painful. This wound is practically unsurvivable, and if we pretend it was, then the Carnosaur would have been paralyzed for life. The Theri drops the Giga, and we can see in gruesome detail how the flesh and skin grips against the exiting claws. This kill will score a 10 for gore, 9 for pain since it also had to endure prior wounds, and feel thick claws wedge against its spine, with a dino brutality score of 10.
Wait,
That
what?
being for T-Rex using another dinosaur to inflict a painful and gory death. Rexy's fatal maneuver on the Giga now bumps out the Giga's T-Rex kill from the bottom of the list, giving us our final 10 most gruesome kills. This was just Goji Center's take on Jurassic's Dino Carnage. Very likely different from your take, so now it's your turn. Tell us in the comments which kill you think was the worst. Subscribe and get ready to bear witness to more Carnage coming very soon.
These are carnivores. That was today's Goji Center video. The gory's death had to go to Dinosaurs because it got teamed on by Rexy and Dinosaur because Rexy had plot armor. But the people behind it doesn't mean it made Dinosaur look like a villain. She was just being an animal. That deserved to be honorable death. Because she didn't deserve to die, man. Like, come on. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time when we see another Carnage. Bye-bye.